Will Mr. Sinister and his motley crew of mutant outcasts and weirdos make a difference in the Tournament of Swords? Well, let's hop into Hellions issue number 6, a continuation of X of Swords, and find out together, shall we? So then, when we last left off, the Hellions were on a covert mission to infiltrate Erico and sabotage the enemies of Krakoa before they could get their own magic swords. The only problem is Sinister was the one navigating, and this guy couldn't find white in a snowstorm. This means that the whole team only makes it to Erico long after the sword bearers have left, and the Hellions are already super messed up from their journey. They're hungry, tired, and poor Havoc lost an eye to a griffin on a magic bridge. It's probably a good thing, unlike his brother, he doesn't shoot concussive blasts from his eyes. You're probably thinking things can't get much worse for these guys when they totally do. The Hellions run into a local by the name of Karn the Uncaring, and he seems to be one of those mutant demon hybrids we've been hearing so much about. And honestly, the more he talks, the more he ends up sounding like this world's answer to Sinister himself. He had hoped that the Sword Bearers would win this big tournament and open up Earth to him so he could get some new DNA for his experiments. And in a twist that will surprise absolutely no one, yeah, Mr. Sinister basically had the same idea himself, which is why he even considered heading into Erico in the first place, not to help Krakoa, but entirely to help himself. Naturally, when all of this is revealed from Karn's mind reading, Havoc freaks the hell out, knowing that they were basically led like lambs to the slaughter at the whim of a mad scientist. But before they can properly deal with this problem, Sinister ups the ante by sending out a bunch of little drones to collect samples from the surrounding area. Also, if I may just nerd out for a second, the little drones look like tiny mosquitoes, so I'm instantly reminded of Dr. Giraud, who used something very similar to gather DNA to make his creature cell. I have to wonder if Zeb Wells is a fan and this is a direct reference or just one of those serendipitous little coincidences. Karn the Uncaring isn't just going to stand there and let his DNA get stolen, so he summons up his own team, the Locust Vial, a group of twisted and diseased experiments, all with unique powers. In fact, Karn even references a famous Professor X quote when he calls them. And I don't know about you, but personally I feel like to me my Locust Vial just doesn't roll off the tongue and into the heart the same way. The Hellions are not ready at all for this fight, by the way, not in the slightest, and everything starts coming undone right away. Nanny the Egg Robot gets blown up, though perhaps because she was a cyborg and a mutant, they could potentially rebuild her at some point. Orphan Maker doesn't serve much better without his anchor and ends up getting his arms ripped off like this was Star Wars or something. And Empath only ends up surviving because he was such a big coward he ran away before the actual fight started. Which, if nothing else, means Grey Crow gets use of his mind back long enough to try and help his other teammates escape. Poor Havoc gets his hands chopped off because this has not been his day, month, or year, and everything in the universe really seems to hate Alex Summers these days. In the end, it's up to the feral wild child to cover the team's escape back to the portal. Unfortunately, they aren't home yet, as they end up back in Avalon, a place where they were already considered criminals for stealing a horse that belonged to Saturnine. Well, technically Jamie Braddock stole it, but that's a long story. And all of this probably would have got them sent off to the dungeon to rot for life were it not for Empath choosing now to come back and put a mind whammy on the guards. You would think that this would make him and Grey Crow square, but you would be dead wrong. Grey Crow decides to open up Empath's guts and says that if he wants to live and not get his brain positively scrambled, he's gonna have to crawl back to the portal. Bloody and beaten, what remain of the Hellions actually do manage to make it back to Krakoa, but their suffering is far from over. Sinister can't have his team out him to the Quiet Council for his many crimes just yet, and because the Five can't resurrect anybody right now, Sinister opts to literally stab his people in the back. Well, they'll surely be pissed at him when they get resurrected, assuming any of these memories actually make it into their new bodies, that is, but that's yet to be seen. And so that was Hellions number 6, and much like number 5, this is a kind of comedy detour from the main, more serious X of Swords story, and I like it. Big, long stories like this sometimes do need little palate cleansers, and I thought this one was very effective in that regard. Zeb Wells basically crafts us the ultimate comedy of errors, where anything that could go wrong did go wrong, and even with all of Erico out to kill them, the Hellions prove that no one hates them as much as they hate each other. Sinister also did manage to get the DNA samples he was after, which you know is probably going to come back in a big way later on, especially as we have the promise of Chimera mutants from House of X and Powers of X. Overall, I'd feel comfortable giving this one an 8 out of 10. I enjoyed this little comedy romp and will definitely be revisiting Hellions once X of Swords is over and done with. Hey there everyone, it's your old pal Cape Jewel, and if you're seeing me right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, which I am very appreciative of. It really helps drive engagement and retention and all that other good YouTube stuff. So does liking and commenting. Wink wink. If you like my content too, you should check out my Patreon page. We just redid all the tiers, so there's a ton of great rewards. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month, and well, it would just really help me out. It's never expected, but always appreciated. So until next time everyone, I've been Cape Joel, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.